Let's move on to the Premier League. Really curious to hear your thoughts on all of this manager changing. So just a quick note for everybody. This is from The Athletic. Connor O'Neill from The Athletic says, after a pair of February firings this week, there have been 4 Premier League sackings already in 2026. We're in February. The most ever seen across the first 2 months of a calendar year. The 8 managers have been sacked so far in 2025-26, and they lasted an average of 319 days, so not even a year. So Tottenham, Forest, Chelsea, and who's the fourth this year?
Man United.
Is that this year?
Yeah.
God, that feels crazy. I think so. Just give me your general thoughts on this, because I find it so fascinating. You lived it so much, and it just doesn't happen in MLS because there's no threat of relegation. There's no, you need to make the Champions League to get a lot of money. So there's just less at stake in that way.
I don't know. We talked ad nauseum about Man United, right? And Amram, and how they could have, should have spoken and had better communication and all the things. I think it's crazy, man. I genuinely think it's ludicrous. I think it's a horrific way to run a football club. I will give you the caveat when it's time. But like Tottenham's a big club, man. One of my best friends supports Tottenham. Some jabronis on this show behind the scenes are cheering. They support Tottenham as well, our producers. But it's sort of like Thomas Frank is a good manager, right? This is what I expect from the board and from ownership, okay? Because Daniel Levy, who used to be the chairman there, he'd sit up in the stands, straight-faced, and I know people love him or hate him, but he took the stick and he stood by people. And when it was time for someone to get sacked, he'd sack him. But you bring in Thomas Frank, right? Okay, results aren't great. And I get that.
Well, that's an understatement, by the way.
I know, I get it, LD. When results aren't great, you sort of are at the mercy of some things. But he's had arguably his best players out this season, right?
Also true. Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
And should the squad that he has be getting better results? Yes. My issue, LD, and I'll get to Forest in a second, is Thomas Frank's a good manager. Give him more time. I don't care that there's some guy in the stands with a scarf that says Thomas Frank out or board out. Like, he can go do one. Stand by your manager. Say, you know what? Thomas Frank is a good manager. Results haven't been good enough. But by the way, we spent a ton of money on this squad, and half of them haven't been fit. We're going to just be upfront and say we're going to analyze and dissect Thomas Frank and result. They're not going down. So we're going to analyze this.
Yeah.
Okay. When he has everybody fully fit, but we expect Tottenham to finish in the top half of the table. You give a mandate.
Don't you think that happened? Don't you think that conversation happened?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. And by the way, they sacked their manager. All the good managers are going to be available in the summer. So so what have you done? Igor Tudor is going to come in and do what? He's going to do what? He's going to get you 3-4 places. I would argue Thomas Frank will help this team finish exactly where Igor Tudor helps them finish. And if you're like, you ain't good enough, sack him at the end of the season and then get one of the 5 World Cup managers that are going to be in vogue. What have you done? Why have you sacked him? Give him an opportunity to continue to earn his keep and get players back. I hate it. And
there's also a financial piece too. Like, you're spending a lot of money by Forest. Okay, go on to Forest, yeah.
But the Forest bit, and I put a ton of the blame on the Tottenham players. But I blame the Forest players, and here's why this is chaotic. So Marinakis, the owner at Forest, has had 4 managers this season. Okay? He's had Nuno, before Dyche, it was Ange Postecoglou, Dyche, and now Vitor Pereira. 4 managers. That means there's no plan. There's zero plan. So the team that I give the pass to always is Brighton, right? Because they scout their managers and they have their next 4 managers lined up. Okay? So if one of their managers is so freaking good that he gets bought by a bigger club, no problem, go. We'll bring the next manager through. If something isn't working right and we have to sack a manager, no problem, we'll bring the next manager through. There is no plan at Forest. And here's what owners don't understand. So Marinakis rules with an iron fist. The stories are rampant. Here's what Marinakis does not understand. And you get this. When you continually sack the manager for players underperforming, those underperforming players will continue to underperform. If you back your manager and go, we spent 200, 300 million on this squad is better than teetering on relegation. All of you sort yourself out. I ain't sacking the manager. I'm not getting you out of jail free. So guess what? Vitor Pereira comes in. Fill in the blank. They maybe get a new manager bounce. I've never managed a day in my life. Forest could get a new manager bounce from me if I went in, right? Once that dissipates, what do you think is going to happen with this team? Think they're going to play for their manager? Like Marinakis has just given and has continued to give this squad that he put together an out. Just gives him an out. And so the only time this has ever really worked on a massive level, okay, has been Roman Abramovich's Chelsea. He bought the best players in the world, LD. Shevchenko, Ballack, Drogba, John Terry, Obi Mikel,
Lampard.
He, Robben, Eden Hazard. He bought the best players in the world, LD, and said it's my team. And then when you get a tune out of them and you win the Champions League, and one of my players comes in and goes, sack this guy, I'll sack him off. And I'll bring somebody else in, and they'll win the Premier League. When you're done with him, he had the best collection of players in the world. Guess what Forest is not? The best collection of players in the world. Okay? So maybe you can make an argument for Todd Bowley's Chelsea. What I would say, because Todd Bowley basically said, I'm going to pick the players with the sporting directors under me, and then the managers are going to be disposable, right? My argument to that is he buying the best players in the world? Maybe. He's buying the best young players in the world, and he's creating a business like nobody else has. So that's sort of the caveat. When he hires and fires, I have a little bit more, I don't like it, but I'm a little bit more like, all right, this is a business. They're going to finish in the top 4. They're going to win, they win the Club World Cup and one of the Europa Cups. So I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with it at Tottenham. And I'm not trying to speak out of both sides of my mouth here, but I'm not okay with it at Forest. I mean, it's crazy to me. So Pereira comes in. Who's to say he's going to last a year? I don't know. No idea.
This is really interesting on the Forest piece. I didn't think about that. From the player's perspective, it's easy then to say, yeah, we weren't the problem. It was the manager. It was the manager. It was the manager, right? And so let me just say something about the Thomas Frank thing. So, and we've talked about that. We touched on this about the changing ecosystem of managers around the world. You have these clubs who want to bring in like a big figure, who takes care of everything. But the clubs who are consistently performing and succeeding, that are not spending the same money, are the ones who have a plan.
Yes.
And they cycle through managers they don't fire them. It's like when the manager's time to move on, they let them move on because they have the next guy, the Brentfords, Brightons we've talked about. The other side of that is, you said Thomas Frank is a brilliant manager, and I agree. But I think Thomas Frank is a brilliant manager in that system, in the Brentford system. When you take a manager like that out of that, and now you bring them to a club where you don't have the infrastructure, I'm saying from a strategic standpoint, of course you have resources at Tottenham. Then what happens? And we saw this a bit, this is a bit what happened with Jesse Marsch too at Leeds, right? He goes through the Red Bull system, and everywhere he goes, he succeeds. Why? 1, because he's in that system, and 2, everywhere he was, they had the best players in the league. So you're going to succeed. And I'm not saying Jesse Marsch is a bad coach, but then you go to a club where that's not how it works, and then it's hard to be successful. And so I think this is going to happen more and more. I bet you we see more and more of this. These coaches are good, but they're good in that system. And then you take them out of that, and who are they without that infrastructure and that help?
Sure. And look,
because that's a totally different job.
I get it. And Graham Potter went through it when he went from Brighton to Chelsea.
Who was the other one? De Zerbi.
Yeah.
But how many of those guys have then been successful somewhere else?
And I'm not trying to give Thomas Frank an out. I'm not. I'm simply saying I do truly believe he was hamstrung a little bit because he had so many players. Like, he had his best players out. Literally. He had his best play. So we don't even know. So Thomas Frank went to a big club with big players, and he didn't manage them. So I don't even know if he can manage at that level.
This is my point, though, right? Like, he was in a system that worked for him. You see it in the NFL, you know, like these guys are in a system and they go somewhere else, and all of a sudden it's like they fall apart. And I don't think people put enough stock into that. I think people think, oh, he's a good manager. Well, let's see why he's a good manager there. Has he done it in another way at a top level? In this, I mean, I think it's a real thing. And I think we're going to see more and more of it because more teams, now Chelsea, we're hiring head coaches, not managers, right? And so you need someone in the system who knows what they're doing.